Hi, this is Alan Shea with Our Society Show, and we are here in Malibu at an incredible Martin Luther King event. And I want you, audience, to really check this out because it was a great, great, great turnout here. And I just want to get a little story of the actor.
Gerald C. Rivers, and I'm often considered or labeled the voice of Dr. King. And I've been doing this work since I was about 17 years old, and I'm over 50 now, and I never thought in my wildest imaginings that this is the kind of work that I would still be doing after all this time. The infamous quote is, I was interviewed by a local paper and they asked, how long are you going to do this? And I said, I don't know, as long as people want to hear it. And the final quote in that article said, that could be a long time. I didn't know. So I just answer the call, and I keep thinking maybe it's going to be over, but we clearly still need these messages, these words, these thoughts, these ideas, these activities of our awareness to make us awake, alive, aware, and aware of one another. Not just aware of ourselves, because there's a self-awareness that happens, and then there's an awareness that we share this planet and this room and this home and this country with one another. And that if we can just do that some more, just give, love, share, everything gets better. And so in that respect, it's almost easy to do my part by just sharing my gifts and talents. And it wouldn't be possible if there weren't people here to hear it. So the people that show up and receive the message are more important than the guy who shows up to deliver it. I'm just the vessel. I'm just the vehicle. I didn't write these words. I don't own these words. I just share these words because they've been so powerful and mean so much to me.
If people were more aware of these type of intimate movements of awareness, what do you really think that it would do for our today's society, especially amongst the youth?
I think it is doing it already. I think we are changing the world by changing the conversation, by changing our mind and changing the minds of those around us. If we're willing to have happy, healthy, positive conversations, not only about how things are, but how they can be better, that's the beginning. And I believe that each one teach one. So we have an intimate evening here, so somebody else has an intimate evening there, and we just continue to love and share. I know I feel better. Selfishly, if I feel better, then the people around me feel better. The Mountaintop. There's parts of the text that the people who were there heard that the rest of us have never heard. Because Coca-Cola bought the rights to that speech, because what he did was encouraged people to boycott Coca-Cola and Wonder Bread for their racist practices. Wow. Coca-Cola took over. None of us ever heard that. I just know because I met people who were there, and he was giving them practical application about how to shut down economically the people who were treating them unfairly. Uh-huh. This morning, I would like to use as a subject from which to preach the drum major instinct. The drum major instinct. Now, our text for the morning is taken from a very familiar parable of our Lord and Master. James and John came unto him, saying, Master, we would that thou shouldest do for us whatsoever we shall desire. And they said unto him, What would ye that I should do for you? And they said unto him, Grant unto us that we may sit one on thy right hand and the other on the left hand of thy throne. He said unto them, Ye know not what ye ask. Can you drink of the cup that I drink of, and be baptized with the baptized with the baptism that I am baptized with? And they said unto him, We can. And he said unto them, Ye shall indeed drink of the cup that I drink of, and with the baptism that I am baptized withal shall ye be baptized. But to sit on my right hand and on my left hand is not mine to give. It shall be given to those for whom it is prepared. And then he goes on towards the end to say, So shall it not be among you, that he who is great among you shall be your servant, and he who is chiefest shall be servant of all. The setting is clear. James and John were making a specific request of the Master. For they had dreamed, as most Hebrews dreamed, of a coming king of Israel who would establish his kingdom on Mount Zion and in righteousness rule the world. And they thought of Jesus as this kind of king, and they were saying, now when you set up your kingdom, we want to sit one on the right hand and the other on the left hand of the throne. The other disciples got mad with James and John, and we can understand why. But before we condemn them too quickly, let us look calmly and honestly at ourselves. And we will discover that we too have some of the same James and John qualities. We all want to be important, to surpass others, to achieve distinction. There's something deep down within all of us that wants to be out front, to lead the parade. And it is something that runs the whole gamut of life. You know, our first cry as a baby was a bid for attention. And all through childhood, we asked life to grant us first place, our little bundle of ego. Now, you know, in adult life, we still have something good, and you know we like to be praised for it. Now, if you don't believe that, you just go on living life, and very soon you will discover that you like to be praised. The only unhappy people about praise is when that praise is going too much towards somebody else. Somehow this warm glow we feel when we are praised or when our name is in print is something of the vitamin A to our ego. Don't you know that a lot of the race problem grows out of the drum major instinct? A need that some people have to feel superior. A need that some people have to feel that they are first and to feel that their white skin ordained them to be first. No, not long ago, a man down in Mississippi said that God was a charter member of the White Citizens Council. God being a charter member means that everybody who's in that has a kind of divinity, a kind of superiority. And think about what has happened in history as a result of the perverted use of the drum major instinct. It has led to some of the most tragic expressions of man's inhumanity to man. Not only does it go into the struggle between races, it goes into the struggle between nations. And I submit to you that what is wrong in the world today is that the nations of the world are caught up in a tragic contest for supremacy. Our nation must be first. Our nation must be supreme. Our nation must rule the world. And sad to say, that the nation in which we live is the supreme culprit. God didn't call America to do what she's doing in the world now. God didn't call America to engage in senseless, unjust wars. We won't stop it because of our pride and our arrogance as a nation. The God that I worship has a way of even putting nations in their place. The God that I worship has a way of saying, as the God of the Old Testament used to say, don't play with me, Israel. Don't play with me, Babylon. Be still and know that I'm God. If you don't stop your reckless course in this world, I'll rise up and break the backbone of your power. And that can happen to America. Every now and then I go back and read Gibbon's Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. And then I come back and look at America and I say to myself, the parallels are frightening. But let me rush on to my conclusion. We can see what Jesus was really saying. What is the answer that Jesus gave these men? One would have thought that Jesus would have said, you're selfish, you're out of your place. Why would you raise such a question? That isn't what Jesus did. He did something altogether different. He said in substance, oh, I see. You want to be great? Wonderful. You want to be recognized? Wonderful. You want to be important? Wonderful. He said it's a good instinct if you use it right. It's a good instinct if you don't distort it and pervert it. Don't give it up. Keep feeling the need for being important. Keep feeling the need for being first. I want you to be first in love. I want you to be first in moral excellence. I want you to be first in generosity. That is what I want you to do. He transformed the situation by giving a new norm of greatness. You want to be great? Wonderful. But recognize that he who is great among you shall be your servant. This morning, the thing that I like about that definition is by giving that definition of greatness, it means that everybody can be great because everybody can serve. You know you don't need a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your verb and your subject match to serve. You don't have to understand Einstein's theory of relativity to serve. You don't have to know the second theory of thermodynamics to serve. You just need a heart full of grace and a soul generated by love. You know, we all think about what is life's final common denominator? That thing we call death. We all think about it. Every now and then I think about my own death. Think about my own funeral. I wonder what it is that I would want said. If any of you are around here when I have to meet my day, I don't want a long funeral. And if you get somebody to deliver the eulogy, tell them not to talk too long. Tell them not to mention that I have a Nobel Peace Prize. That isn't important. Tell them not to mention that I have 300 or 400 other awards. That's not important. Tell them not to mention where I went to school. On that day, I want somebody to be able to say that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want him to say that I tried to be right on the war question. I want him to say that I did try in my life to clothe those who were naked. I want him to say that I did try in my life to feed the hungry. I want him to say that I did try in my life to visit the sick and imprisoned. I want him to say that I tried to love and serve humanity. I won't have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life. And that's all I want to say. You want to say that I was a drum major? Say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. Say Say that I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. I just want to live a committed life. And that's all I want to say. If I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word of song, if I can show somebody he's traveling wrong, then my living will not be in vain. If I can do my duty as a Christian ought, if I can bring salvation to a world once wrought, I can spread the message as the Master taught, then my living will not be in vain. Yes, Jesus, I want to be on your right or your left side, but not for any selfish reasons. I want to be on your right or your left side, not in terms of some political ambition or kingdom. I just want to be there in love and in justice and in truth and in commitment to others, so that we can make of this old world a new world. I'm happy to see each of you here tonight in spite of a storm warning. You've revealed that you are determined to go on anyhow. Now, as I listened to Ralph Abernathy in his eloquent and generous introduction, then thought about myself, I wondered who he was talking about. You know, it's always good to have your closest friend and associate to say something good about you. Ralph Abernathy is the best friend that I have in the world. Now, something is happening in Memphis. Something is happening in our world. Masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they're in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, Jackson, Mississippi, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same: we want to be free. And also in the human rights revolution, if something isn't done and done in a hurry, to bring the colored peoples of the world out of their long years of poverty, out of their long years of hurt and neglect, the whole world is doomed. I'm just happy that God has allowed me to be here with you. You know, several years ago, Mrs. King and I were first in Jerusalem. We rented a car and drove from Jerusalem down to Jericho. And as soon as we got on that road, I said to my wife, I can see why Jesus used this as a setting for his parable. It's a winding, meandering road. It's really conducive for ambush. You start out in Jerusalem, which is about 1,200 miles above sea level. By the time you get down to Jericho, 10 or 15 minutes later, you're about 2,200 feet below sea level. That's a dangerous road. The days of Jesus, it came to be known as the Bloody Pass. Now, perhaps the priest and the Levite saw that man on the ground and wondered if the robbers were still around. Or perhaps they thought they were acting like they were being hurt in order to seize them over there, lure them there for quick and easy seizure. So the first question that the priest asked, the first question that the Levite asked was, if I stop to help this man, what will happen to me?
And then the Good Samaritan came by, and he reversed the question. If I do not stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to them? That's the question before you tonight. Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to my job? Not if I stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to all of the hours that I usually spend in my office every day and every week as a pastor? The question is, if I do not stop to help the sanitation workers, what will happen to them? Let us rise up tonight with a greater readiness. Let us stand with a greater of determination in these powerful days, these days of challenge to make America what it ought to be. Now they've given us an injunction. We're going to go out and march anyhow. We're not going to let any injunction turn us around. You know, when we went marching, they brought out dogs. The dogs would start barking and we'd start singing, "Over my head I hear freedom." And then they brought out the water hoses. Now we knew water. Those of us that were Baptists had been baptized. If we Methodists, we knew water. Now, this was a fire that no water could put out. And I can remember when I was first in New York City, signing autographs from the very first book that I had written. While sitting there signing autographs, a black woman came up, and the only question I heard from her was, "Are you Martin Luther King?" And I was looking down writing. I simply nodded my head yes. The next thing that I knew, I felt something beating on my chest. And I had been stabbed by this demented woman. I was rushed to Harlem Hospital and operated on immediately. And the doctor said that the tip of the blade was on the edge of my aorta. That's the main artery of the heart. Once it is punctured, that was the end of you because you're drowned in your own blood. Came out in the New York Times the very next day that if I had merely sneezed, I would have died. After the operation, after my chest had been opened and the blade had been taken out, they allowed me to move around in the wheelchair in the hospital. I got a chance to read some of the mail that had come in, and kind letters had come in from all over the United States and all over the world, and I read a few. I want you to know that I received a telegram from the President of the United States, but I've forgotten what that letter said. I received a letter from the Vice President of the United States, but I've forgotten what that letter said. I received telegrams and visits from different governors of different states and of different cities, and I've forgotten what those telegrams said. But there was a letter that came from a little girl in the White Plains High School. And I shall never forget it. She said very simply, "Dear Dr. King, I read in the paper of your misfortune and of your suffering." She said, "Dr. King, while it should not matter, I would like to mention that I'm a 9th grade student and I'm a white girl." She said, "I read that if you had merely sneezed, you would have died." She said, "Dr. King, I'm simply writing you to say that I'm so happy that you didn't sneeze." And you know, they were telling me she must have recognized the significance, for you see, if I had sneezed, I wouldn't have been around here in the 1960s. When we decided to take a ride for freedom and ended segregation in interstate traffic. If I had sneezed, I would have been around here in 1961. When the students were sitting in at lunch counters And I knew that as they were sitting in, they were really standing up for the best in the American dream, taking this nation back to the great wells of democracy as dug deep by the founding fathers in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. If I had sneezed, wouldn't have been around here in 1963 to see Negroes in Albany, Georgia, straighten their backs up. For whenever men and women straighten their backs up, they are going somewhere, because a man can't ride your back unless it is bent. If I had sneezed, wouldn't have been around here late in those years to try and tell America about a dream that I'd had. If I had sneezed. But you know, it doesn't matter now. It doesn't matter what happens now. We left Atlanta this morning, and as we got started on the plane, there were 6 of us. The pilot said over the public address system that we're sorry for the delay, but we have Dr. Martin Luther King on the plane. And to be sure that all of the baggage was checked, and to be sure that nothing would be wrong on the plane, we had to check out everything carefully. And we've had this plane protected and guarded all night. And then I got in Memphis. And some began to see the threats or talk about the threats that were out. What would happen to me from some of our sick white brothers? Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead, but it really doesn't matter with me now, because I've been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop, and I've looked over and I've seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land. So I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I'm not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory and the coming of our Lord. He is trampling out the vintage where the grapes of wrath are stored. He has loosed the fateful lightning of His terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. He has sounded forth the trumpet which shall never call retreat. He has lifted up the hearts of men before His judgment seat. Oh, be swift, my soul, to answer Him. Be jubilant, my feet. Our God is marching on.